Now recording.
The following podcast may have adult humor,
swear words,
innuendos of a adult nature.
making fun of me.
That's a given. Everybody looks forward to that. But just know that you have been warned. Hey everybody, Richard here, again solo with a podcast for you. Unfortunately, as of recording, my co-host Jesse is still not feeling up to par. Or as we say down here in the South, up to snuff. So we're going to be running at it again solo. I want to remind everybody to please go check out the Titans. You can get 25% off of their price by going to their store and typing in the code at purchase, capital KOTB, all capital letters, 2023. And up until February the 28th, you have that code to get you 25% off. Be sure to check them out. They're really, really good. Really, helpful in running games, especially for sighted people. And they have some great benefits to those who are visually impaired or totally blind as well, as I've used them to help mark out different areas like not alleys, but they can be used for alleys in a city, or you could use them to have doors in certain areas. Work really, really well for that. And of course, it's still a work in progress, but be sure to go check them out and grab you a set of them. Today, instead of creating a monster, we're going to be creating a spell. And this is, of course, using the D&D 5e rules, but I do believe it will work with, D20 system. So, each system is different, so you may have to adapt it to whatever system that you're using. So, as we are creating this, I'm going to be typing it down to post this on the blog, so that if you want to use it in your games, you can do that. All right. Step one is really a lot like whenever you're creating the monster. You want to homebrew the monster. You want to find one to go as a guideline. It is simpler, much easier, fairly quickly, because you just, you can change the name, the description of it, the damage output. All you're doing is changing that over, and that is a much simpler way to do it. I will do that here to show you how easy and simple that is. Alright, now we're going to be looking at Mage Hand, which is one of my favorite cantrips because of its versatility. And the reason I say that is I know that the rules say that the Mage Hand cannot attack. And that's perfectly fine. But also, you could hold a bowling ball with it and drop it on someone. The Mage Hand itself is not attacking, and I know that's probably what some people will say semantics, or some of you rules Nazis or rule lawyers out there will disagree with me, and that's fine. We're all allowed our own opinion. But let's look at this Mage Hand and how easily we can convert it to show you the simplicity of, just taking an official spell and then homebrewing it to something different. Then I'll also do a first level spell as well after Mage Hand. Now, Mage Hand is a conjuration cantrip, which means it does not cost a spell slot. It takes one action to cast. The range of a Mage Hand is 30 feet, which is pretty good distance. Usually, the majority of movements are around that. the components that you need to cast Mage Hand are both a verbal and a semantic to get it to work. And the duration of Mage Hand will last up to 1 minute unless you dispel it before then. And what it does is a spectral hand, appears, and you can move it up to 30 feet, on your turn. It can hold objects. You can use it to manipulate objects or, do pretty much anything with your normal hand except attack. So it is very, very versatile. It helps a lot when it comes to dungeons, doors, traps, trunks, and things like that. And of course, the Mage Hand, can't tote things up, more than 10 pounds. But I want you to look at this as I have converted it. I paused the recording and, did that. So let's take a look at it now. Now, the spell that I am creating is called Fingers of Death. Again, like I said, I've copied it from the Mage Hand spell. It is necromancy. You still have the casting time of 1 action. The range is still 30 feet. The components I've changed from verbal and semantic to just semantic. And, you can have that be whatever you want it to be. You can, thumbs up, making the finger gesture of come here, doing the Darth Vader squeeze, with whatever you want to do there. That is, totally up to you. The duration I have changed from, instead of 1 minute, I've changed it to 2 rounds, which is around 12 seconds. So, short duration because of the description of it and the damage that it can cause. And what it is a skeletal hand appears on the chosen target's throat, forcing them to make a DC 12 Constitution saving throw, taking 1d6 necrotic damage on a failed save and half as much on a successful save. And sorry about the Amazon notification, if you all heard that in the recording. Wasn't expecting one of those right now. But I'm going to come back here and we're going to do a first level spell. Okay, anybody who has heard me talk knows that I'm a sorcerer. I love playing a sorcerer, and I love Magic Missile. I think it's one of the best spells in the spell list. I keep one at all times, and that one is the first spell that I put into any sorcerer or anybody that can cast Magic Missile. That's the first spell that I put in. What Magic Missile is a first level invocation. It takes 1 action to cast. It has a range of 120 feet, and the components are both verbal and semantic. The way that I did it whenever we used to meet in person and play D&D is I made the Diamond Dallas Page, bang for my semantic. The duration is instantaneous, and what it does is you create 3 magical darts of force damage that cause 1d4 plus 1 force damage. You can send the darts out to attack 3 different people, 1 person, 2 people. You can send them out in any way up to 3, and if you cast it at second level or higher, you get an additional dart of force and can subsequently send it to 4 different targets. So, like I said, it's very versatile. It helps out in fights, and I just really enjoy this spell. So, if we're going to copy one, we're going to copy this one. It automatically hits, which is, I think, one of the things that I love most about it. Now, what we have here is the pyro balls. I mean, who doesn't want to eventually be able to cast fireball? So, we're going to be able to do this at level 1 in a different way. Calling the spell Pyro Balls, copied from the Magic Missile spell. It's a first level conjuration, and the casting time is 1 action. We have kept that part the same, changed the evocation to a conjuration because you're conjuring fire. I have halved the range. A magic missile again has 120 feet. What I'm doing here is I'm cutting that in half, and it's going to be 60 feet instead. And whereas the magic missile only has 2 components that you need, I'm adding a third one here. You still have to do verbal, you still have to do semantic, but now you have a material that is required to do this, and it is a red dragon scale in order to be able to cast this. Again, we're sticking with the instantaneous, and it's just, the damage is very similar to that of Magic Missile. Whereas in Magic Missile you get 1d4 plus 1 per dart. Here I am changing that to 1d4 only fire damage. You can still cast the, each pyro ball at a single target or multiple targets. That's totally up to you. They're keeping that aspect because I really like that. It also automatically hits, which is, like I said, one of my favorite things about Magic Missile. Also keeping the, you get an additional pyro ball for each level cast. So if you cast this at 2nd level, you will get 4 pyro balls. At 3rd level, you will get 5 pyro balls. The damage is still going to stay the same at 1d4, but anything that is flammable will be ignited. So that can add to it as well. And, look at it like this, and let me give you a way that you can possibly use this. You can take your mage hand, spread oil all over the place, or, if you're in a more modernized setting, gasoline or, something along those nature, something flammable anyway, and then cast this spell. Oh wow, it only does 1d4 damage. Oh, but whenever you throw it at that oil and it catches on fire, the heat will get intense. Believe me, it will cause a lot more damage that way. Just, it's just something that, I want you to look at and to think about. And it's that simple to make, a homebrew spell that fits what you want. Check out these friends of Knights of the Braille.
Hello, I'm Quinn.
And I'm Alex.
And we're
a couple of characters.
We discuss topics related to creating characters for role-playing games.
We talk about fun characters we've created.
And give advice about how to make your own quirky characters.
Check us out every other week, wherever podcasts are found.
And now let's go over creating a spell from scratch, basically. Whenever, you're creating one from scratch, the DMG says that, we should use already created spells as guidelines. And that's really what we did with the first part of this podcast here, this episode. So let's go over the guidelines that they say we need to use. If we need to think about, like, if a spell is too powerful that, magic user wants to use it every single time, a la the fireball. Maybe it's a little overpowered, and we should, look at lessening its effects, or dumbing it down, for lack of a better term there. So, think about that. Look at your spell. Think about how often you would want to use it, and then how often someone else may want to. And they said here that a long duration or a larger area of effect, or AoE, can make up for a small amount of damage. For instance, like every target within a 30-foot cone takes 1d6 damage. I would much rather use a spell like that than a one shot that does 4d6 damage. It spreads out damage among multiple targets, and if you can get your targets lined up or in that area, you can do quite a bit of damage in one cast. So being a caster, if you're not a healer, if you're a damage dealing caster, then you need to try to maximize the amount of damage that you put out, as opposed to one-shotting things. So look towards the bigger picture whenever you're playing a caster. And here's another guideline. They say, be careful about, or try to avoid spells that work against just one thing here. And they, specifically mention a good dragon, but you don't want to create spells that work just against trolls, or just against werewolves, or just against zombies. Because why would anybody want that spell? Say you have it in, your known spells, and, you can use it, but say you never come against, zombies. What's the point of having it in your spell list then? And it says also, make sure here that, make sure that the spell fits the class. And what that means is, typically sorcerers don't heal. I'm assuming warlocks don't heal. I've never played a warlock, so I'm not really sure there. In fact, I've never played a wizard either, in any D&D setting, so not sure. And I know, shocker, I don't know everything. Amazing, right? But I do know that clerics heal. I know that bards have a little healing. So other than the divine sorcerer, I know they can heal. So we really, when we're creating something, as we're fixing to do here, we need to be careful about that. Don't step on another class's turf, or their territory, so to speak. And it says here, as I'm going down this list here, we're coming to spell damage. So, for any spell that uses spell damage, any spell that causes damage, they have a spell table here that we're going to go over, and then we will, create our spell. And it also states here, the level of the spell is determined by how much damage you want to put out. And it goes into the whole saving throws here. And if it heals, you can increase it by hold on, see. If your spell doesn't deal damage on a successful save, you can increase the damage by 25%. Now the table gives certain dice that you can use, like a D4, D6, and on upwards. It says here that you can use different damage dice if you so wish, as long as the average will be about the same, and then it can add some variety in there, and that's not such a bad thing. the more dice you have, the more guaranteed damage you will have. Because think about, say a spell causes 1d8 damage. Now, you're guaranteed at least 1 point of damage there if it is successful and hits. But on the opposite side, if you say that this spell damage causes 2d4 damage, then you're guaranteed at least 2 damage points, as long as it is successful. So definitely something to think about there whenever you're creating your spell and your spell's damage, or even if you're creating a monster as well, because that's very, very important. So let's get to creating our spell, and we want to give it a name. So let's think about a name here. Okay, now that I have the title, you can pronounce this however you wish. I am calling it Arachnelia. And what it is a spell that you conjure in your mind the thoughts of spiders or scorpions or any other arachnid that you may have, or can think up. And you send this thought over to your chosen target, and they must make a wisdom insight saving throw against your spell save DC, which can range depending on how you have your sorcerer or wizard or warlock built, because you can use this spell with any of these classes. And on a failed save, they will take 3d10 psychic damage, as well as 3d10 bludgeoning damage as they slap at their own bodies, thinking that spiders are on them and they are trying to get into their body. What that will do there is, you will get at least 6 points of damage when you cast a spell if, they fail the spell save DC. Now, on a successful save, they will take half as much damage. So, therefore again, you roll all ones on your damage output. You will cause them at least 3 damage. So, that's the kind of spells that I personally like to use as well, because you're guaranteed at least something. And now, they're not all of my spells that I choose to do that, but I like those, and I also like to choose spells that fit my character, regardless of whether Richard likes them or not. If it's not one that my character would use, then I don't pick it, no matter how much Richard, the jerk that he is, likes it. Now let's really look over this spell. Arachnelia, and as my phone goes off, I apologize for that again. It's a 4th level conjuration. The range is 30 feet. It's instantaneous, and you get 3d10 psychic as well as 3d10 bludgeoning damage. And again, this spell will be put up on the Knights of the Braille blog, which is knightsofthebraille.com/blog. So you can get a look at that as well. And I've already talked about the description, which is where they think that they have spiders or something else similar to that crawling on them. So we have created a cantrip and a 1st level spell by just modifying what is already out there. And then we have also created our own spell from following the rules mentioned in the Dungeon Master Guide. Now, I'm not sure like other systems how they do certain things, but and just like with the monsters, just dumb it down some, use some common sense, because each game system is different, each rule thing is different, so there's no way that you can actually convert them properly unless you know the system, and there's so many systems out there that there's, well, I'm sure somebody will say, well, I know them all, but it's impossibility in my opinion. But to look at the Fingers of Death, which is a cantrip, you could say instead of rolling 1d6 damage that it causes 1 point of damage or 2 points of damage. You don't want it to cause much here because it's not a higher level spell. So you want it to be very minimal. If depending on your system, like I said. As far as the magic missile one, the pyro balls, since they cause 1d4 fire damage, again they are fairly weak. They can be used differently and make the damage more intense. I would go with say 2 damage. Like have the Fingers of Death be 1 damage, the pyro balls being 2 damage. Now and speaking of that, that's something that you could also do, is use the average of the dice, if that works for you. And of course, the higher that you go up with the level, if you're converting it to another system, the more damage that you would want to have there. And for example, the Arachnelia spell there, you would make them make I guess a wits test or whatever the term is in your system, and it could take 9 damage or something appropriate to whatever level it is that your game system uses. Again, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed these spells. I will be posting them on the blog, and we will definitely do this again. Maybe next time we'll do some healing stuff. So thank you for listening. Remember to like, share, subscribe, check out our Discord, and join us on Twitter at Braille Knights. Check us out on Facebook, and we'll catch y'all next time, and may your rolls ever be critical successes.
You know what's cool? Podcasts. You know what's not cool? No podcasts. Check out all the podcasts over here at blindknowledge.com. This podcast you're listening to right now is a featured Blind Knowledge podcast.
This episode is brought to you by the Knights of the Braille and is made possible through the support of viewers such as you. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to get all of the latest information and episodes. Thank you.